welcome to episode 1 of the new Map Deck podcast on a new channel. So hardly anyone's going to watch this, sorry Jake, but hopefully people will come over and be familiar with us. Today we're going to be talking about the controversial post by Guillaume Martin about his Look bike being too heavy.
Yeah. I'm
a Look fanboy, you're a Specialized fanboy. Do you think we're in an okay place to talk about this?
I think we can find a middle ground, yeah.
It's interesting. It struck me, the Look thing aside, I thought it was dead interesting because played out in the comments of all our Map Deck videos is that's really heavy, almost regardless of how sexy a bike is. Like that S-Works that we had in recently, just out to the nines, 7.2 kilograms. That's really heavy. That's a pig of a bike, was the comments. So I think it's quite current, don't you?
I do. I think even though with all the trends of aero and stuff that have been going on for the last couple of years and the marketing cycle that we've been through, everyone seems to be coming back round to lightweight at the minute. It's sort of, you're getting the all-rounder bike, but everyone is still bothered about weight.
Yeah, they are. It does always come back to that. And we did go through the whole thing. Out of the rim brake era came the aero era, the System 6s, the Trek Madones. Those were quite chunky bikes, and you would have seen places like the Hambini channel talking about how aero they are, and then when new bikes came out that were trying to be lighter, they've taken away this big aero fairings and everything else. And now we seem to be trying to chase this magical 6.8 kilos again.
Arbitrary 6.8 kilos.
Which is incredibly difficult to do in the disc brake era, I think.
Yes.
We have seen some pretty damn sexy bikes in the shop.
Yeah.
Worth 15, 16,000, and they still don't quite hit under 7.
I don't think I've ever seen a 6.8 kilo disc brake bike in person.
No.
I do know that, I had a read through the, who was it? Bike Radar article that they did at the start of the Tour de France, and apparently Jonas Vingegaard's Cervelo R5 is 6.8 kilos. Okay. So that is the gold standard benchmark for a world tour climbing bike is apparently the Cervelo R5.
They must have done to get that weight down. Like the new Specialized SL8 S-Works, we had that in a size medium. I think we weighed it. I'll put the YouTube short up. It's like 720 grams or something, 780 something. I can't remember. I'll put that down. And then we compared it. Literally, we had a Look RS Blade, which is my favourite bike for a variety of reasons, mostly the durability and the stuff like that. That was exactly a kilo for the size medium, the closest I can ever get. Like literally, we'd made sure that all the bolts were the same, the mech hangers were attached. We've done as much as best we possibly can to try and get them. So I think that's a fair representation of the bikes that are in the pro peloton at the moment. Somewhere between 700 and a kilo for a frame.
But I mean, if we're looking at that, Guillaume Martin is complaining that his bike's a kilogram overweight, 7.7 kilos. He's saying that's unacceptable. But the difference in the frames, because he's effectively pinning this on Look, is how it comes across, and obviously Cofidis aren't happy.
He said the bike. Yeah. And I think to most people when they hear the bike...
That means the frame.
That means the big logo on the side, but there's lots of components that make up the bike,
so
for sure.
If we're losing 200 to 300 grams in the frame, which is, you can't deny, it is a little bit heavier, but I think it probably gains it quite a bit back in stiffness, and... It's still not the slimmest bike in the peloton.
No, even with that really, really sexy handlebar, there's still, it's not the lightest. We're absolutely the first people to put our hands up and like that. And I'll say things like the mech hanger, the bottom bracket, etc. They're durability things that I personally prefer as a non-professional that gets a new bike whenever I need one. I would take that little weight penalty over anything else. But when it comes down to pro level racing machines, and if 200 grams is making the difference, then it needs to make the difference, I guess. But
if that's your 200 grams, or should we call it a conservative 300 to be generous to the man? Where do you think that extra 700 grams is coming from? Because that's a lot of weight that you're losing out on. Other components.
It is. There's still quite a lot there. So the first thing is group set. You know that the new SRAM Red is a little bit lighter than the latest and greatest Dura Race, but again, not by masses, loads, not by race winning amounts. I don't know. It all marginal gains add up, etc. I think my suspicion is those wheels.
The Karima wheels. Now, we had a bit of a snoop at lunchtime, and obviously your time with Cofidis at the Tour of Britain as well, and we think that the World Tour team is still running the old tubular wheels, don't we?
Yeah, so the Karimas that we've got, I think the WS Evo, the 47s that come with the blade, lovely set of wheels, super stiff. I can't say they're the most aerodynamic thing I've ever ridden, and definitely in terms of like crosswinds and how they feel. Beautifully well made, absolutely lovely, but they're definitely a little bit on the heavy side for the cost. Whether you get that back in stiffness, it's hard to say, but yeah, they're definitely heavy. And I think the tubular ones that the women's team were running were definitely having a raised eyebrow here and there as being the heavier options. The girls there were definitely keen to be onto the newer tubeless ones. And a little bit of that was actually because they knew that new Power Cup tyres were faster. So there was definitely an awareness that the Michelin Power Cup tubeless were a faster tyre than the tubular tyre. That was like quite like, we don't speak about this, but we would much rather have the tubeless.
Yeah, and that's obviously because people haven't invested in tubular technology for the last, I don't know, probably 10 years at this point. It's outdated and no one's really running it anymore. So I think that just goes to say that the tyres will be faster, but you would expect a tubular wheel set to be light.
Yeah, it's I sadly haven't got a wheel set here to measure it exactly, but all I've got is those sort of raised eyebrows. I'm like, yeah, we'd rather be on the new stuff for whatever reason. But the Creamers aren't known for being an exceptionally light wheel anyway. I think they're about 50 grams or something. So you can get a wheel set now in the Pro Peloton in the 1290, something like that, for a decent deep section wheel. So I think that makes a big chunk about it. And I wouldn't be surprised if those Michelin tubulars were also a little bit slower compared to the Power Cups, because those are a very nice tyre.
Yes.
And they've, on all the friction tests, etc., they're doing very well in friction testing and stuff like that. So that could be a part of it, I think.
Because you see, I think, having looked through a lot of the pro bikes from the Tour this year, especially the winning one of Pogacar's Colnago, I think the weight is a concern to a lot of riders, because if you look at his bike specifically, they have tricked everything out that they can to be as light as possible. Because obviously in the disc brake era, as we were saying, it's very difficult to get down to that 6.8 kilo limit. And they are running a lot of non-factory components that a team like Cofidis really struggle to run, because if they have Shimano as the sponsor and Shimano paid them a lot of money, they provide them the group sets, it's very, very difficult for them to take off the kind of factory components, whereas Pogacar and UAE have sacrificed, probably a bit of sponsorship money and that sort of thing to actually put on the carbon tie chain rings, the carbon tie disc rotors, the absolute black brake pads.
They had gone to town. And
I even saw that they've done the carbon tie fixing bolts for everything. It's like they've even got like direct mount hanger, stuff like that. And that bike apparently is only still 7.2 kilos.
And it must be 20 grand at least.
Oh, easily
with all those bits on and stuff.
So I think it's not necessarily just specific to look, although Guillaume Martin is very upset because he said he'd even gone to the length of taking off his power meter and bike computer to try and save weight.
Yeah, that's quite interesting, because their power meter option would be the SRM ones, and you might have seen them on the spy shots, the look, and we saw it from the women's team visit when we went there. Some of them who wanted power meters were, running those. Because the pedals hadn't worked their way through, and I still don't think we're only now just getting deliveries of some of the pedals.
Right.
It didn't look like the Cofidis team had power meter pedals either. So there's still that bit of, even though you're the pro team, you don't always get
the pick of the bunch,
the latest thing. So I'd be curious to know whether the wheels are a limitation on the Cofidis sponsorship in the same way they were with the women's team, or whether Guillaume Martin actually specified that he wanted
possibly
tubular. I'd be surprised, because there is so much data out there to say that the tubeless is faster.
Yeah. And if he's so concerned about his weight, you would have thought he'd also be so concerned about his rolling resistance and his aerodynamics. But I do think that we do know that weight isn't everything, because as much as UAE have gone to town on that bike, Pogacar is still running deep section wheels on every race, because when these guys are climbing at 6, 7, 8%, they are so fast. They're still doing 20 plus miles an hour when they're attacking uphill.
45 millimeter deep.
And so, if they've gone to all the effort of optimizing everything, you would have thought they would have thought about optimal wheel depth as well. They're not just running the deep sections because they look good. I think they're running them because they're fast as well. And so, I think we have to think that weight isn't everything, because if it was, then all these guys would be running like 20mm wheels on a climbing stage.
Yeah, absolutely. They probably still could do, actually, couldn't they, if it really, really was important. So it kind of begs the question, where's this going to go for normal riders? You know, people that can actually buy a bike off the shelf and see where it goes. Because there was still anything under 8 kilograms for a disc brake road
competitive.
bike is pretty competitive. When it goes above 8, we're like, oh, you know, probably, you know, like the Giant Propel 105 is like, oh,
that's about 8 kilos, isn't it?
That's about just tips that are just slightly over 8, and you're like, well, that's a bit on the edge, don't you? But my blade is now currently running at 7.6.
So your blade's lighter than Guillaume Martin's by 100 grams, and I'm pretty sure you're taller than him as well.
Yeah, good point, actually. That's the only thing that I've really changed on that is actually the SRAM Road group set.
Yes.
It's gone from the
Shimano
so
group
that's
set. That's probably 150 grams, is it now?
Yeah, maybe.
So there's a couple of grams in that, but that is with the quite heavy fast forward wheels on, isn't it?
Everyone says they're heavy. They're not. They're like 1490 or something like that when I measure them.
Okay. So
I mean, they're heavy compared to like some wind space something with carbon spokes that will like fall out when you put some power down. Yeah, interesting actually. What the hell has he got in that bike that's making it so heavy?
Must be the motor.
And on that bombshell, I think we've talked that conversation to death. Yeah. Thanks, Jake. It's good to review that situation. I hope you guys found that conversation somewhat useful. Please put your own comments down below. What do you consider to be a lightweight bike at a reasonable cost in today's era? I'll be really, really keen to know. What would you consider good for the money? Yeah, I'd love to know that, wouldn't you?
But yeah, please, everyone, subscribe to the new channel. Yeah. Keep watching.
Get subscribed, spread the word that we're now doing this sort of chit-chat on this channel, and you can expect the normal edited and long-form, carefully curated content on the long-form channel. Cheers, Jake. Take it easy.